Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Keep Indiana Learning. My name is Tim Arnold, and I'm very excited to be here today with my fellow innovation coaches, Karisa Schwannekamp and John Wells, for this episode. It's actually episode 4 in our dual book study discussing AI in education. In this book study series, we'll dig into the books Co-Intelligence by Ethan Mollick and AI for Educators by Indiana educator and author Matt Miller. So whether you're here with us live or you join us later on the Keep Indiana Learning YouTube channel, we're here to explore these two wonderful books. And we know as AI becomes increasingly integrated into society, it's crucial for educators to understand its potentials to enhance teaching and learning while being mindful of its limitations. So during this book study, we'll explore practical AI tools, strategies to enhance learning, ethical implications related to AI and data privacy considerations, future-proof skills related to AI, and methods to leverage the collaborative intelligence of AI. That sounds like a lot, so we're going to pick it apart one session at a time. In our dual study book format, we'll take sections of books to discuss, bringing some of the practical strategies and templates from the AI for Educators into the discussion, as well as the research and examples related to AI from Co-Intelligence. Today, we're looking at Chapter 3 of the book by Matt Miller, AI for Educators. Before we dive into that, let's do some introductions, and I'll turn it over to my co-hosts.
All right. Hey, my name is John Wells, and I am a 33-year veteran. I teach English language arts and public speaking at FJ Wright's in Evansville.
And my name's Karisa Schwannekamp. I have been in education for 21 years now. I started out as a special education teacher and then taught high ability fourth grade for a long time and STEM programming. And now I'm in my second year as our district's instructional technology integration specialist here in Plainfield. And I'm so passionate about bringing engaging and creative strategies to students and teachers, and AI, of course, is on all of our minds. So I'm excited for this conversation. We have some big AI initiatives in our district this year. So I think this is going to be a great conversation.
Great. Thank you both for being here. My name is Tim Arnold. I'm a district e-learning specialist with Richmond Community Schools. I spent 26 years in a 7 through 12 social studies classroom, and I'm in my 9th now with Richmond Community Schools. I'm an innovation coach with Keep Indiana Learning, as our two other guests, an Indiana University Distinguished Jacobs Educator, and I serve as a member of the HEC board. So as we dive in here to Chapter 3, the big question that all educators have had to deal with is, AI is here. What the heck do I do today? It can be a very overwhelming feeling to realize that this new thing is here. There have always been new things, but this is a pretty big new thing. So as you thought about that question early on in this chapter, what did that lead you to think about or reflect on?
Well, for me, one of the thing that really jumped out to me is just like, I don't know if it was so much like the AI was the problem. It was that changing of the mindset and just like, hey, how are we going to adapt? Like, do we have the tools to adapt? Do the students have the tools to adapt? So I think there's a lot of, fear and anxiety that really kind of underpin so that change. And then it's like, we don't even know what all AI can do. So, we're kind of wandering out there into the wilderness a little bit.
I would agree. And here's the conversation that I think really helped us in the beginning. So we kicked off using Magic School AI. We received the digital learning grant. And so we were really able to hit the ground running with it. And I think it all started with conversations with students. So having these real conversations about how we're using AI as professionals ourselves to teach them how to use it responsibly and effectively, so that it wasn't this, concept that we just couldn't talk about or we couldn't touch, but it became something that was just really real. Like, hey guys, this is what I used it for today, and I didn't get what I wanted right away, and talking to them about prompting and back and forth. And again, you're talking to a machine. So, the output will only be as good as the input. And so I do think that it can be very scary because we don't know. in co-intelligence, he said, right now we're using the worst version of AI that we'll ever use, which to me, like, stopped me in my tracks, but it's so true. We think it's so amazing right now, and it's only going to get better. But I think in order to prepare students for the future that is really hard to see right now, having those genuine conversations about how we're using it and how we're even failing in our use and having to continue to prompt and try helps them understand how to use it responsibly, ethically. And I do think you have to have the conversation, because the avoidance piece that it's going to go away, that's just not a thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think the thing that I got from that question about what to do today, that from this chapter with Matt Miller was, and it's easier said than done, but don't worry about the big picture, right? We cannot go into the classroom in front of students with this feeling in our mind that, oh my gosh, the future of education has changed forever, because this is not going to be productive for us in that moment. So the idea of starting with small shifts, which is what I think this chapter is really all about. The age-old question is, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. And we are certainly there with AI. So,
I was just going to say too, like students, when they saw that, and they're like, oh my God, look at all we can do. What are we going to do, right? And they jumped on it. And I think it's really kind of a challenge to kind of walk them back a little bit too, right? Like they see this great tool, they got a paper written or something, and so they think like this is amazing and this is great. And I don't know if they've seen the potential yet or they understand the potential, but they're so fixated on this one part right now. It's going to be really hard to change that mindset.
Yeah, for sure. I think Matt really, he was just very transparent about things. When you have that reticence or that fear when teachers with what this could be, and you have that urge to say, well, that's it, close the computer, we're going back to paper and pencil. I really appreciated that he mentioned that paper and pencil creates barriers as well, that there are a lot of students for whom paper and pencil is a true barrier. And so to eliminate all technology options based on our fear or our thoughts or our feelings about one, I understand it, but it doesn't mean we can allow people to react that way. So let's utilize technology to reduce barriers to learning, increase expression, and then we'll find our way together from there.
I agree. A tool that's helped me as I'm working with teachers within Magic School, there's a tool called the AI resistant assignments, and it really does help teachers get past the barrier of, well, I've always done it this way, but now students are going to cheat. They're going to copy and paste everything from ChatGPT, and it really does a good job of helping you. It looks at where you are and then helps you figure out how to design something if you are worried about them throwing something into ChatGPT or throwing it into another model to get an answer. It really does a good job to help you get started. So I've used that with a lot of teachers, especially the ones that are saying, we have to do everything paper pencil. How will I get an authentic piece of writing? So I like that those tools exist, and I like that just a chatbot exists, right? If you don't have access to that generator, just getting on ChatGPT or chatting with, here's what I'm running into, here's what I'm worried about, how could I design this and tweak it, and just use AI as a collaborator in that way.
And I feel like this is the same conversation we had 20 years ago when like, oh, it's Google and you could just Google anything. And then 15 years ago when we gave every kid a device, right? This is the same kind of conversation that we had back then. And it is that shift, that kind of, hey, we just have to look at this a little bit differently now.
For sure. Yeah. I think that, one of our early important conversations, because there was a large crowd that said, shut it down, or how can we stop this? And there was a calm voice that said, don't create an equity issue where one doesn't already exist, because we know some students are going to use this at home, and we know other kids won't have access to any of this at home. And so by using a tool like Magic School that Karisa mentioned, it's a wrapper of an LLM, large language model, and it runs everything through an educational lens, and the data, it stays within, it's not sent out anywhere. There are ways that we can do those things in a responsible manner, both for our students and for the community at large. So one of the things Matt talked about in there were feedback loops and how technology can be used, specifically AI, to really supercharge those things. And Karisa, you mentioned Magic School. That's the one I'm most familiar with because we got that one here in my district through the digital learning grant. But the Magic School writing feedback is one that's been a quick adopter for teachers in our district. The idea that if I have 25, 30 kids in my room, I can be having conversations with half of them, but the other half can be getting some real feedback through that Magic School feedback tool. I can drop in my own rubric. I can drop in certain parameters that I'm looking for, and this tool is going to give them relevant information, some grows, some glows, and some mechanics information. And I think that's, to me, one of the strongest things about AI is that process that it provides that is so timely, which we know is important in feedback anyway.
Mhm.
I will say that tool is the number one used tool among students in our district. So teachers are pushing that out to students, and it makes sense, right? Because think about pre-AI, we're turning in essays. I taught fourth grade, so I'm getting 30 at a time, and there's no way I'm getting that back to them even within 24 hours. But the turnaround and how they can work on it in real time, and there's real meaning, right? I can take this, get feedback, make it better before it even reaches my teacher for final feedback. I mean, that's real world learning. Getting it back a week later, do students even look at their papers a week later? I mean, you've spent all that time grading it and marking it up only for them to put it away and be finished with it. And maybe taking some of the feedback and applying it to their next piece of writing, but probably not if they're not paying too much attention to the feedback. What we've done in our district, especially to prepare for iLearn in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, we took the DOE rubrics for the 3 pieces of writing that the kids are tested on. And then I set up some Magic School rooms where you could preload the rubric in. And then I was very descriptive on how I wanted the essays to be graded. And I wanted a score for each area and then a final overall score. And then during 1 week, all of our 3rd graders are writing to the same narrative prompt, and then they're having the students put their writing into that Magic School room for the narrative feedback. And it's been amazing. So I was in a classroom last week where they were using this, and the students were getting an overall score of an 8 out of 10. And they were saying, I'm going to get a 9. I know I'm going to get a 9. So they were getting so competitive with wanting to get a better score that, I mean, it's kind of like you're having so much fun, you don't even realize you're learning type thing. So that's been a game changer. And I hope that, once iLearn comes around, our students are used to writing to that rubric and used to how they're going to be graded and what the DOE is looking for. That's our hope, that one of our proof of concepts for using AI would be that it really is improving student writing.
Talking about that feedback. So I teach, at and below level seniors for English. I've got 96 of them this, semester. So when I give an essay, I get, almost 100 of them. One of the things that I really found really helpful with AI feedback is the consistency, right? Because it's the same. And I know I'm using the same rubric, but, over time, I start to kind of focus on this or kind of focus on that. And I've noticed that AI is a lot more consistent. It keeps me, kind of in the same areas a lot of times. So I'm not just giving feedback faster, but I'm also giving back a lot more consistent feedback to help the students across the board.
Yeah, and I think it's to interject here and say the reason that this feedback is as good as it is because of the teachers and what they're putting in it. Mm-hmm. So that's one of those things about AI. Sometimes people forget it. The teacher in the loop is the big deal because we are the professionals that know what the rubric should be, what the outcome needs to be. And without that, you're not going to get the quality feedback that you would otherwise. So again, yeah, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, that's the same question that when I talk to students about that, using AI themselves, it's, you're only going to get back what you ask it, right? Write me a paper about photosynthesis. You're going to get that, but you're not going to get much depth, or you're not going to get the thing that needs to be talked about. It's really about understanding the assignment, understanding the material, understanding what is it that I really need to focus on to write this, to really show what I know. Part of the learning process is just knowing what to know, right?
I love that. That makes me think of another way to think about all of this would be have AI generate different examples of pieces of writing and then have kids pick it apart. Why would this not get a great score when you're trying to align it to this rubric, and have them see for themselves what AI generated work looks like versus what, we've done with our human brain. I don't know. The possibilities are endless. I love the positive feedback piece because I think of all the times I graded all of those papers and how few times I actually gave really positive feedback because I was spending so much time marking up the things that I wanted them to do to, become a better writer. To no fault of our own, you just are trying to help them so much become a better writer that you forget to comment on the things they're doing really well. So I think that is a huge positive as well.
Yeah, I love all of that. One of the things that made me think about, Karisa, was the idea of comparing genres, having students have to compare different types of writing. And it's not always easy to create all those types with good examples or maybe examples that aren't so good. So they see the pitfalls there too. But one thing, the strand that kind of went through everything that we talked about there was kind of process over product. We're really focusing on the process with the AI tool. The product, it's going to be there in the end because the kids have gone through this process. And I think that's one of the things that I would really ask teachers to focus on is how can AI assist you in the process of getting to where you want to end up. And then, Matt talked about all these little shifts that we can make. So to answer the question, what can I do today? Let's talk a little bit about some of those shifts that we can make today or tomorrow with AI to help us out. And I'll start one off. If I want my kids to share something with me that they've learned, and I know we were all lovers of Flip or Flipgrid, but Padlet is there now. And Padlet has really stepped up its game. And so for video of learning or video of explanation of learning, we're using Padlet a lot. If you are a Canva district, and I hope you all are, then a Canva infographic is a great place to start for students to share what they've learned or what they know or what they can do. What kind of small shifts do you guys think are out there as well for other tools or AI tools?
One of the things I liked when Matt mentioned in here, it's about the conversation. And it's not just like I spit something back out at you, right? Like you asked me a question, I gave you an answer, we all move on. It's a conversation. So not only is it, that feedback loop, right? But the students get a little bit more chance to explore it, to refine it in real time. And so it becomes kind of a living piece that can adapt and grow as they get more feedback from the teacher and their peers.
I love that. And when you think of process over product, I've talked to a lot of teachers who have changed the way that they're grading. So instead of looking at the overall writing assignment, the students are going in and marking where they've taken the feedback and actually applied it into their writing. Because isn't that what we care about? We care about they've gone through the process, they received the feedback, now they've refined it. And now what does the finished product look like? So even in our writing classes at the high school at the highest level, they're taking pieces of writing and they're proving back to their teacher and their classmates, they're sharing it. Here's what I've done to make it better. And I love that idea. It seems so simple, but I think it's really powerful when we're looking at, okay, now where do we go from here?
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea. It makes me think about those things that anything that's a student creation, whether it's a creative demonstration or working on a real world problem or a PBL type thing, those things are in their very nature AI proof because you're creating something brand new that's never been there before. Now, can you use AI as part of the process? There's that word again. Yeah, absolutely. But it's that brand new outcome that we're creating by going through that process that we're all looking for.
Well, I think too, it also kind of asks us as educators to really think that question out. What is the product? What is the piece that we want to be able to say, yes, the student does understand this. Anybody can, I can answer C, 16 times and I'll get one of them right, So, really what is the product and how can we get the student to that product? And AI can be a tool to get there.
Yeah, well, Matt he concludes the chapter by talking about retrieval practice. being an important skill that kids still need. And you talked about brain dumps, and for me, my mind goes right to one of my favorites, which are edu protocols. Many different types of edu protocols that can be used for reps. I think sometimes reps or repetitions get a bad rap, but we know that they're effective. You know, there are so many things that we do in life that reps make it work or make it better. And so that's one of the things that we can help AI create for us if we need it. So any other last thoughts before we close out here today?
I did want to share. So one of our, it's the dual credit writing class at the high school. She said, who would have ever thought this? But I have seniors who are having these brag fests after they get their feedback because they want to brag about what Magic School has said about their writing. So I think that, 17 and 18-year-olds who can't wait to share with the class what the AI is saying that it's doing well in their writing, I think that that's pretty powerful and not something I would have immediately thought of.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I just have to say that, the whole book was, not just this chapter, the whole book, it was really good to have it in that educator frame. And it wasn't like, let's change everything right now, right? Like in this chapter, it wasn't change everything right now. Let's think, let's work through it, and let's come up with the best solutions. So I thought it was a great approach.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And we hope you've enjoyed our conversation and digging into this text. And we have a few discussion questions we hope you'll consider before we sign off. One would be, how can educators make those small shifts that we've talked about to leverage AI as a creative partner to develop more engaging lessons or projects? And what are some ways that AI could inspire student creativity in your classroom? Small steps, things that you can use tomorrow. So with us, ponder these questions and let us know your responses. And we have many more amazing discussions and idea sharing opportunities throughout the semester as a part of this live stream series. And be sure to join us next time when my co-host Brenny Coomer will be leading our discussion on Ethan Mollick's book, Co-Intelligence, chapters 5 and 6. And let us help guide you through the AI of the storm.